Greetings. Today I want to speak to you concerning St. Vincent and the Grenadines Christian community and how this Christian community in this country will condemn you if you tell them that the Bible was never meant to be interpreted literally. Neither was it meant to be taken as secular history. It all represents the human psyche. I'm going to simplify it for you. There's no one in my country who can tell me of anything that was done in the Bible, whether good or evil, that wasn't force a thought or force an idea or force imagine. In other words, they cannot tell me of anything that wasn't force mental or psychological. And then, they can't tell me that the words they speak, that it is not the expression of a thought, and that it is not mental or psychological. So, whether you agree or disagree with me, it have to be mental. So, I've been teaching the world that the Bible is not a literal book. It is actually a book of mind science. And so, St. Vincent Christian community call me stupid, crazy, and they say blasphemy. Yet, there's none in this country who can turn literal water into wine. But I was able to put a book together called How to Turn Water into Wine, to show you that you are physical, you are psychological, and you are spiritual. You are three in one, therefore it must be interpreted to you on three levels. Just like the ark, the Hachi story, which represents your physical self, your psychological self, and your spiritual self. But there are people who would tell you that the Bible is literal, in so much that they really believe that a penguin traveled all the way from the North Pole to go down to Africa to be in a boat. Also, none of them have ever taken 5 loaves and 2 fishes and break it and feed many. Then they will say, that is symbolic. But when I tell them that the entire book, from the beginning to the ending, it's all symbolic, they would doubt. So they believe some parts is symbolic, parts that they can't understand and they can't interpret, and the pastor can't interpret. They say, that is not literal, but the rest is literal. So, for example, when you say, if your right hand offend, you must cut off your right hand. Okay, they could tell you, well, that is not literal. When they say Daniel was in the lion then, hungry lions, and he turned it back on the lions. If you say, okay, you're going to do that, they say, well, that is not wisdom, that's stupidity, this, that. That's what they're going to say, right? Because why? They do not understand the interpretation of the coded book. It's a coded book. Okay, it is encoded and it must be decoded. And only certain people can decode it, because in order for you to decode the Bible, you have to have certain experience. Like the experience that I had, okay, where I give birth to my son, that called me father, and I gave birth from my skull. That's how I know no woman have ever lied on her back and opened her legs and gave birth to any special, unique man who existed thousands of years ago, who had special powers, and no one else have that power. Because, you see, no one could check the divine law of reproduction. It's basic common sense. You plant pumpkin, you can't reap watermelon. I was having a conversation with an African gentleman. I was giving a ride to church just yesterday. And I was speaking to him concerning the Bible. And when I mentioned that no one have ever turned literal water into wine, why no one can do it right now, and they say Jesus is inside of them, right? He says that the Bible says if you have faith as a mustard seed, what you can do, and you can do greater works. So I say, so you mean to tell me there's 8 billion people on this planet and none have faith as a mustard seed? My brother, my sister, if you're listening to me, right, it's okay if I sound like a crazy man. It's even okay if I look like a crazy man. Because the one that you're looking for to save you and redeem you, you were told that he was called crazy. You were told that he was accused of blasphemy. But it is the intelligence that is in you that you will discover. And when you use that intelligence and you do not speak or teach like the scribes and Pharisees, which is basically the religious and superstitious minds. Your mind is different, and you can break down and simplify the Bible, yeah, which is to tell you basic instruction before leaving out. I can take that and explain that and show you. It's basic in a belief, life eternal. And take that and put it with their interpretation and show you the same thing. Okay, and show you where one is keeping you grounded on the physical level and one is taking you up to a higher level. Okay, so my brother, my sisters, the main thing I want you to understand is that when you're born in this world, you're born in a state of amnesia, which is a state of forgetfulness. That is why you do not know anything when you are a month old or 6 months old. Even when you were 12 months old, you can't remember a thing. Okay, so what you're seeking for is memory. You want to remember. That's why you're seeking to know who you are. And the universal question of life would always be, who am I? And when the answer comes, it must be I am. Whenever you discover that I am, you would realize that your name is I am. And that the name that your parents call you, just 2 words they put together. Okay, and everyone's name is the same. You have to say, before you can say you're rich, you're poor, you're strong, you have to say I am. And you can never say I am and not referring to yourself. You can't be referring to someone else. So when you say I am the way, the truth, and the life, you think you're speaking for a man who existed years ago. No, it is you. The truth is within you. The life is within you. The light is within you. The way is within you. Everything is within you. Everything exists in your consciousness, your awareness. God cannot exist unless you exist. God cannot speak unless you speak. God cannot see unless you see. God cannot hear unless you hear. You have to understand that there's actually no name for this infinite intelligence that we call life. There's really no name. So that's why they have Jehovah, they have Yahweh, they have Brahma, they have Buddha, they have Allah. They have so much name that represent this power. Okay, but when you really understand this power from a standpoint of freedom, and when I say freedom, let me explain to you what I mean. If you live in a country that has been colonized, you will receive an educational system that is mixed also with a religious system. Okay, that is why on mornings at school, you have to recite certain things. That is a program. So you do it in the morning, you do it in the afternoon, you do it in the evening. That's a program. Okay? That is keeping you in a paradigm. You're creating a paradigm through what? Repetition. Okay? And so, once that program has been built in your formative years, it is very hard for you to escape it. Unless you're willing to unlearn and relearn and reprogram your subconscious mind. Because your subconscious mind is wide open in your formative years, from the time you come out of your mother's womb right up to the age of 7 and 8. And so if you do not school your child from a very young age concerning seeking to know who they are, why they're here, where they come from, where they are going and so on, they would believe everything that has been taught to them. And so, because of colonialism, your mind is shaped to think, believe, and act a certain way. Because your colonial masters have continued reigning through their generations. Because they passed down certain secret to them concerning this Bible and what it is really all about. And unless you wake up from the dream of life to know these things, I will sound to you like a crazy man, a man who lost his mind. But the thing is that results don't argue. Results don't tell lies. You see, when you read the Bible says that the borrower is a slave to the lender. Well, just be honest with yourself. The things you own, your house, your land, your vehicle, was it a loan from the credit union or the bank? Well, did the bank start with money? Well, every bank was first a thought, it was first an idea, it was first imagine. Every money I know, it was first a thought, it was first an idea, it was first imagine. As a matter of fact, money is a flowing living energy. It's a currency. And do you know that you're carrying a currency? And that's the currency that create money. Okay, so you have to really be honest with yourself. Okay, let me give you another example, right? In 2020 to 2022, did you take the inoculation? Do you know many people who are religious and superstitious and who think I'm crazy and I'm blasphemous? You know they have to take the inoculation because of loans and mortgages. And do you know when the Bible says that the fool says in his heart, there is no God? You know you have to say that there is no God to do those things and to live that way. You know, there's a man who normally on the street in my country, I was preaching, right? And he's not the first person I've ever met. And anytime you say anything to them, they'll all them say, the fool says in his heart, there's no God. The first time I met a man who told me that his name was Teddy, Adventist man. He told me that. And he inspired me to make a video on that, with the fool. You see, when the Bible speaks about your heart, it's speaking about your subconscious mind, in your invisible self. So you're speaking the invisible world. And you're speaking the visible world. But most people don't know how to speak in the invisible world. They don't know how to operate in the invisible world. Matthew 6:6 tell you how to operate in the invisible world. Psalm 4:4 tell you how to operate in the invisible world. And I could go to many, many, many scriptures to show you certain keys that are hidden. And how the book is a hidden book, it's encoded. And so, my brother and my sisters, I'm all over the place right now, man, because I want to give you a lot of things to really think on. Like, for example, they think a donkey talk to a man, a literal donkey, and they think a literal man went on a literal donkey and ride into a geographical place called Jerusalem. But if you really know how to really go on the real ass and ride the real ass into the real Jerusalem, I tell you, there'll be a triumphant entry because your life will be joy, peace, and happiness. I'm telling you that. I guarantee you that. Also, if you look at Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, and I wrote a book on that called How to Open the Floodgates of Abundance. My brother and my sisters, I'm saying to you, if God says that He will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that you don't have room enough to store. As a Christian, why you so broke? Why you live from paycheck to paycheck? Or why you are a lender, you are a borrower and not a lender? Why you are beneath and not above? Why you are the tail and not the head? Okay? And I'm just saying this to provoke you, okay, to think. Because true wealth and prosperity and so on is beyond earning money. Okay? Because you have to become wealthy first before you really earn a lot of money. Okay? So, I'm just doing this video to help someone who might be a seeker, who might be a thinker, and who might want to go deeper down the rabbit hole with me. Okay, I have a link down below. You can check out my description down below where my books are available. If you want to check out my books, if you want to book a one-on-one with me, you can book a one-on-one with me. As a matter of fact, I'm on a Christian app. Okay, the link down below that you can book a one-on-one with me. And on that Christian app, I'm one of the few persons that is teaching the Bible from a metaphysical and esoteric standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. Most of the others are teaching it with the old way, from how they receive it from their old colonial masters. Because see, you have to look back to, for example, in my country they have someone they call the national hero, right? Which means that this man who's the national hero, he fought against the Europeans who come to colonize and so on, right? Well, you have to find out what he did believe before and who he was. You have to know the whole truth about that. You think you get the truth? Most people think so. Yeah, I'm just enjoying myself. So my brother and my sisters, I'm just doing this video to really get you to think. It's just to provoke you. Okay? So if what I'm saying, if it makes sense to you, if it resonates with you and you have a subscriber already, I'm encouraging you, you can definitely subscribe, you can like, you can comment, you can share this video. However, I have a course, you know, on my Patreon. Normally, people who see, who get access to my course is people who donate 20 or more US dollars to, on my Patreon. They get access to that course. It's called the Inner Sun Science and Technology to Create Your Reality Consciousness. And along with that is a bonus course on self-concept. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are. Okay. What I'm doing can definitely help you. I've been helping people from since 2017 when I started doing videos and YouTube and so on. And I would like to help you, but you have to be open-minded. And you have to be willing to unlearn and relearn and reprogram your subconscious mind. Okay, but the main thing, my main teaching is that the Bible is not literal, neither is it secular history. It must never be taken literally. There's no part of it that is literal. None. Absolutely none. Okay. So, I think I would have said enough. My last encouragement to you is to let your intuition definitely lead you and guide you into what to do. Peace. I'm out.